What is up, everybody? Noche UFC is on Saturday at Sphere. It is going to be one heck of a show if the preview we have gotten is any indication. I am joined right now by my good friend, a legend in the MMA media space, Mr. John Morgan, the commentator for CFFC, does podcasts for Grind City Media, the MMA Roadshow. John Morgan is everywhere, and now he is here at Kevin Iole's YouTube channel. John, welcome. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, bro. I appreciate that introduction. I was going to say that I look forward to sitting next to you at this big event, but I don't even know if we are sitting next to each other. I mean, I don't know where press row is going to be. Well, I mean, it's so weird. I mean, normally I would know, yep, sit right next to you. I see you Saturday night. I have no idea what's going to happen.
You know, they won't give us seats with haptic feedback because you and I are always jumping out of our seats when something happens. And so I don't think they want to waste haptic feedback seats on us, right? So
that's it. We are the haptic feedback.
Exactly. We're creating it ourselves. You know, so let's start basically with the event. You know, neither of us have actually been in the Sphere to see what the UFC has set up. You know, we've both been in the Sphere to see an event there, but we haven't been there for this. I got a little tour of the office. They have a mock-up at the UFC headquarters. I know on Saturday you did a really good interview with Dana White about, you know, what it's expecting. You have not seen it yet, but kind of what is your thought, John, on what a person who's going to watch this on television, or even better, be actually in person at Sphere, what can they expect in your mind?
Yeah, the TV part is still a mystery to me, right? That was one of the questions I asked Dana. I mean, and you know, you've had that conversation as well. What a challenge it is to build this amazing field. But as you said, we've been in that venue. That venue, until you've been in it, is indescribable. Like, the words don't make sense, but it transports you. So when they initially announced the idea, or actually, to be honest with you, when I first went in the Sphere, immediately, of course, I'm thinking, could you do a UFC fight here? What would you, my first thing, you know, is the floor space big enough? I'm not sure it is, but apparently it is. You know, then I started thinking, well, what do you put on the screen? Do you put multiple camera feeds? Do you put stat boxes? What do you do? And then I started seeing the stuff when U2 opened up, right? And you start seeing how, like, the band would set up scenes basically where it transported you somewhere. And I said, oh, I got it. That's what they're going to do. It's going to be, you know, because it's like virtual reality, right? I mean, the screen, the resolution is so high, the field of vision is so big, it really transports you. So that's you know, what I'm envisioning, and kind of what I think Dana has described in some interviews, is like transporting you to worlds. So it's going to be like, hey, I don't know what those worlds are yet. Maybe like the Plaza in Mexico City or whatever.
Well, yeah, the worlds are going to be movies. They're going to be 90-second movies, and it's going to progress. So if anybody has been either to the YouTube concert or seen the movie, the YouTube movie that just came out at the Sphere, one of the things that they did in that movie, John, have you seen that yet, the movie?
No, I've just seen social media clips. I just saw postcards from Earth in the Sphere.
So the movie itself actually progresses, so they don't use all the technology immediately, right? And the technology progresses and gets better and better as it goes on, right? And so, you know, I don't want to spoil for anybody who's going to see that.
I want to see it.
And you saw the concert there, which it was phenomenal, right? But they're going to have little movies. It's going to talk about kind of the Mexican history, and then go into fighting, and there's all sorts of things, but they're different directors and little 90-second clips that are going to go out there. But this is going to be something like, even the fighter walkouts are going to be different. They're going to come from different ends of the arena, right? Normally they come down the same aisle, except for the champions. This time they're going to both be on opposite ends of the arena, and they're going to have multiple TV trucks for this show, which they don't normally do. So normally 2 TV trucks, now 4 TV trucks for this one. One that's going to, you know, 2 of the trucks are going to produce only the Sphere, and then 2 are going to produce the TV broadcast. It's going to be crazy.
What a dance, right? I mean, to pull it all together. And, you know, that was one of the things I talked about with Dana White the other night is, right, like, I know he's excited to show this thing off, right? I mean, they put so much work into it, but there's no guarantee that it's a 100% success rate. You know what I mean? Like, man, the arena product that they do week in and week out, they got it. They got that down to a recipe. They got that down to a science. They nail it better than anybody. But this is a delicate dance, you know, and obviously, you know, in this phase of my career, I've gotten more involved in event production and television production, and, you know, just a normal broadcast can be a little tough. This is going to be insane. So, man, I'm excited to see it come together, and I'm excited to see, like, I have no doubt for us inside that building, the experience is going to be insane, right? We know what that venue is capable of, and I don't think people that haven't been in there understand it's not a normal venue to just be like, bro, how much better could an arena be? Like, no, this is next level. But How do you convey that to TV? You know what I mean? How do you get the viewer at home to feel that? I'm very interested to see how that's done and how well they pull it off.
Well, I'm going to run two things past you. When we talk about things getting pulled off, right? On my little tour, and I don't want to give anything away, but timing and precision is going to be very important in some of this stuff, right? I mean, literally to the split second, that is going to be something else. But also, you know, when you talk about the screens inside the sphere and how many screens are 16 by 16, 16K by 16K. So that's 256K resolution on one screen. Now you're talking at home, we have 4K resolution and are thinking about getting into 8K resolution, which, you know, that's still years off, right? They're selling 8K TVs, but don't have 8K content. And now you're talking about how many thousands of screens that are 256K content. I mean, it's just, you know, I think the screens that were normally in an arena where they have them up in the corners, I think the screens are going to be 80-foot rectangles, right? So I mean,
it's you know, so you already went and saw VU2. You already went and saw the U2 movie. Of course you did, bro. You're everywhere. You're VIP like that. But I was seeing just a social media clip of it, and it's so crazy. Like I sent a clip to our good buddy Ken Hathaway. I'm like, bro, did you see this? And he's like, yeah, I saw the U2 show. That was a good part of the show. And I'm like, bro, do you understand? U2 is not there right now. Like, this is a video. This is a movie. And he's like, what are you talking about? I mean, that's how high this resolution is, that it messes with your eyes and your brain, man. The quality of content is so high, you don't see that it's not actually there.
And at one point they take you outside and you're it's like you're on the strip, right? You know, and the concert. I mean, you know, so you just wonder, like, are we going to feel like we're in Azteca Stadium in Mexico or something at some point during this fight card? It's going to be, you know, going to be nuts.
I can't wait for it, man. I can't wait to see it all. And, you know, it's interesting. I mean, does that impact the fighters at all, right? I mean, right. You know, is it like a very bright light? Is it, you know, you've been at fights that happen like outside, right? And the sunshine can affect things, or reflections off glass or whatever. So is this similar? What are the acoustics like? Like, we know the acoustics are amazing in that place, right? I mean, but it was built to be like a venue, right? How does voice travel there? Like, are you going to be able to hear your corners well from in there? Or is there something weird in the way? Who knows? I mean, there's just all these variables to it. So I'm excited for it, man. I mean, we'll get into the card, obviously, itself, and there's some phenomenal fights on it. But just as a spectator, almost as much as, you know, a journalist or a broadcaster or whatever, I'm just intrigued by this, man. I mean, you and I have been to a lot of fight nights in some very cool places, but none of us have ever experienced something like this. And so I'm fired up for it.
I can't wait to see this. It's going to really be wild. You know, one of the things that I think too about this is that I think this is a big step for UFC in trying to really become equal to boxing in Mexico. And here's why I say that. You know, Dana White said at the beginning, you know, in 2001 when they started, he thought there were three no-brainers. He thought it would be England, the United States, and Mexico. And while they, you know, you and I, before we started recording, we're talking about Brandon Moreno, Alexa Grasso, Yair Rodriguez, who've held UFC championships. They haven't had that superstar from Mexico yet, that person that would be equivalent to Julio Cesar Chavez or Ricardo Lopez or Salvador Sanchez or on Saturday night, Canelo Alvarez, right? Those people were some of the biggest stars in the sport, and Chavez in particular. You know, Oscar De La Hoya is another one who actually will be at the show. You know, they transcended the sport in a lot of ways. The UFC hasn't had that fighter yet. When they went to England for the first time, what was it, UFC 38, I think it was?
Yeah, that's right.
Ian Freeman was on the card there. That ended up bringing them Michael Bisping, and then a whole bunch. You know, now of course MMA is huge in the UK. Ireland, you know, Conor McGregor watched that first show, UFC 92, and that brought him. And they haven't gotten that yet with Mexico. You know, they've had good fighters, but they don't have the depth of great fighters that they have from other countries, and B, they haven't had that transcendent superstar. And I wonder if they're trying to use this show and the quote unquote love letter to Mexico as a way to get some of those people and say, okay, we understand you love boxing, but MMA is great fighting too, and we want you to go into MMA.
I think so, because I think you touched on, I mean, there's a couple things at play. Like one, just the education process, right? I mean, it takes a while for people to understand mixed martial arts as a sport. And obviously boxing has been very, very ingrained in Mexican culture for a long time. So, but I think that's changing. You're seeing, those fighters that you mentioned kind of leading the way of people seeing it and athletes wanting to participate in it. And I think there's a lot they've had some very successful events in Mexico City, right? That have sold very well. And so I think the sport and the knowledge base is developing there. And it's interesting, right? Because they've had UFC champions, which is crazy, right? Because normally you're like, oh man, that's what we need. As soon as we have a champion, it's going to explode. And it has, but you haven't had somebody that's dominated for a long time. And you've also had not extremely outspoken champions, right? I mean, Cain Velasquez, obviously incredible, doesn't say a whole lot. You know what I mean? You think about, look, Alexa Grasso, just the nicest human being on the yeah. It's just they're just not super outspoken, right? Like whereas Conor McGregor, galvanized an entire culture or whatever. So I think it's a combination. They have athletes that are finding success, and so I think the road is being laid. But absolutely, I think this event is going to help. And it was great to hear that Dana say the other night, "Hey, look, this is going to be a tentpole event. This is our second Noche UFC. I'm doing it every year now, and maybe I take it to Mexico, maybe I take it to Texas, maybe I take it to Arizona. But yes, I think this kind of annual tentpole event is just going to continue to help develop the market for sure."
I think like Brandon Moreno to me has been the most popular of all the Mexican fighters, right? Like when he walked out for UFC 270 and he was in the co-main event that night for his title fight. I mean, I thought that place was going to erupt. I mean, I think that was the loudest ovation. I don't know if you remember back, because I just threw this at you right off the top here live, but I don't know if you remember back, but that ovation Moreno got that night, it was like a hero's welcome, right? And I think, but he lost, like, he'd win the title, lose the title, and,
right.
And he didn't have that streak. And I think Yair Rodriguez might have been another one, right? But Yair, same thing. He has a great fight with Max Holloway. Then, I think they need to get a fighter in there that was like a Chavez, who reeled off win after win after win and was dominant for a long time. And if you get that along with that charisma and the Mexican fighting style, I think you have something.
100%, I agree with you. Look, I believe there is growth. There's room for growth in Mexico, and I believe the sport will continue to evolve there, and the fandom of it will continue to evolve there. And there's athletes being developed. I mean, right? They're investing in a UFC PI, and they're trying to find these athletes. I mean, there's a lot of good things happening. So I believe the future is very bright. And look, man, this is going to be a great event. And this event is definitely going to live outside the world of combat sports, right? Being in the sphere, I think Monday morning, sports shows from around the world are going to be talking about this event and showing clips of it. So it's going to help in Mexico, and it's going to help in other places as well.
Yeah, I think they're going to get a big bump out of this. There's no doubt. Let's go over the card a little bit. Interesting card. Now, I want to say this, and I've said this on some interviews I've done with other people. I think this is a really fun fight card. But for a pay-per-view, it's not like UFC 300 or UFC 299, where they had so many big names and fights that everybody was saying, oh, my God, I can't wait to see that fight. These are some smaller names on their roster. Not that they're not good fights. I think top to bottom, they have fantastic fights on this. But these are, a lot of the fights that appeal to the hardcore fans that we see at UFC Fight Night at Apex a lot of the time, right? These aren't the ones, the casual fans who know the big names, right? I think it's set up here for Sugar Sean O'Malley in the main event to explode, because I think this venue is going to bring so much attention. And he is, I think, the one fighter on this card who has superstar potential. And I think he's right there. Like I said this to Dana last week, John. I don't want to prattle on too much, but I said I think you have Conor McGregor at the top level of stardom. And then on that next level down, you have Chuck Liddell, Ronda Rousey, George St. Pierre, and who else did I mention? I had a fourth one in there on that level that I'm just John Jones, of course.
Right.
John Jones.
Come on,
John Jones, pound for pound best in the world. But I think Sean is right below those guys right now, and I think he can jump up into that level with a spectacular win over Merab in this venue. Would you not agree with that?
Well, first point I make is, what if they all walked into a room? I mean, who's going to walk? No, I'm just kidding. But yes, no, absolutely. No, this is amazing. And you're right about the card construction itself, right? I've seen some criticism of the card, and I understand it, right? And that's just because the level of UFC pay-per-view has gotten so high now, the way the cards have been stacked, and there's been some great ones. So it doesn't measure up to those. But first, I'll just say, and I've been saying this, and it's true, if this was 10 amateur fights put together in the Sphere, like I'm watching that and I'm super intrigued by it, right? The venue is a big star, but yes, Sean O'Malley in an incredibly difficult test against Merab Dvalishvili. I mean, this is a fight that he could conceivably lose, absolutely. But if he wins, and if he wins spectacularly on this platform, on this stage, it will skyrocket his popularity. And because look, the guy has charisma, man, and we've seen it from the very beginning, right? I mean, he's done a full image transformation since Dana White's Contender Series, but even then you saw that he had that charisma, right? And he's got skills, man. The guy can fight. And I think that's something that people kind of forget too. It's, oh, he's that clown with the hair and the whatever. It's like, boy can fight, you know what I mean? Like, he can fight. So this is a spectacular. So I get the overall criticism possibly of the card. I would say maybe tone that down a little bit if you're a fan. Understand this is an incredibly special, incredibly unique one-off event. But those top 3 fights at the top, a lot of jeopardy in those top 3 fights. So you can't argue with those up there and what they mean. Because that's all. There's some great fights stylistically, but what we like, what really sets over the edge is that jeopardy, right? Those stakes. Those top 3 have it.
Let's go through the card. We'll get a couple quick comments on the prelims, and then we'll go a little more in depth on the main card. The fight card will open up with, I guess we call him Uber prospect Raul Rosas. He at DraftKings, he's a minus 700 favorite over Riculing, who is plus 500 in a bantamweight fight. I think this should be an easy Rosas win. How do you see that one?
Yeah, it's funny. I hadn't seen those odds yet. That's absolutely incredible. Yeah, Rosas is the real deal, man. The kid is talented. I mean, he's 19 years old, which is insane. And I think a lot of people wanted to hate on the guy. And listen, he's got skills. There's a reason he's here. There's a reason he's got this matchup, I would think. They know what they're doing. They're trying to build the guy a little bit. They got him on Fight Pass by himself, so they're trying to get some subscriptions there. I like that. But, yeah, I like Rosas Jr. here.
Next fight is flyweight fight. We got a replacement. Joshua Van steps in. He's going to fight Edgar Shirez. No line on this that I've seen in any of the credible places I looked at. ESPN, Bet. All my odds here at DraftKings, BetMGM. So no line on this. I know there was one place that had Van as a favorite, which I did not agree with. But just kind of quick thought on that fight.
I like Van Step. It's he's stepping in here, so we'll see. He's got a lot of skills. As you said, that one line that we saw was a little bit wild, but it was not from the most reputable house we've ever seen. He was like minus 200. I don't agree with that. I think this is a very good stylistic matchup. I might lean slightly towards Van, but I think this is going to be a well-contested fight. And stepping on short notice, we'll see if that adds to the challenge.
Next one's a women's strawweight fight. Yasmin Yaragi, she is minus 485 over Ketlin Souza, who is plus 370. I think Yasmin has a chance to be a special fighter. A tough fight for her here, but I think she has a chance to be special.
I agree. She had a setback early in her UFC run, but she's rebounded for that. She does look like she has the skills here, so I think this is a big moment for her.
Lightweights up next. Manuel Torres minus $125. Ignacio Bahamondes plus 105. That's a little bit tougher fight right there. How do you see that? I guess I would lean Torres, but not a lot of gumption behind it.
Yeah, no, man. He's a great fighter. He's a lot of fun. This is going to be an exciting matchup. This one's definitely not going to the judges, I don't think. I think they can take the round off this. I might lean towards Ignacio just a little bit. But this is going to be this is going to be a fantastic fight. This will get the energy going inside the Sphere, I believe.
I really like that fight, yes. Then the final prelim fight of the night, Irene Aldana minus 118 versus Norma Dumont minus $102 at bantamweight. Now, before I even get your pick, do you think that this favors Irene given it's at bantamweight as opposed to at featherweight, where Norma Dumont fought at featherweight a few times? Boy, she looks more like a monster than she does necessarily at 135.
Yeah, I do. I think this is not an easy cut for Norma Dumont. But there is no featherweight division to speak of, so you got to make the move to 35. But yeah, I like Aldana in here. I'm not 100% sold on Dumont at 35. I think she had a lot of trouble last time out with Jermaine Durandamy, who had been off forever and is a little bit older and a little longer in the tooth. Although she's still in fantastic shape, still a great fighter. So yeah, I like Aldana here at 35.
And then the main card opens up, and I think this is one you mentioned. Raul Rosas is the real deal, and it kind of set up. Ronaldo Rodriguez is a $1.30 favorite over O'Day Osborne, who's coming off back-to-back losses. He is plus 110. I think this one is, if there's a setup on this card, this is one for Rodriguez, I think, to really look good, to come in there with a fight where, he is going to show out and maybe get a lot of people talking.
I agree. And you know Ode is going to bring it, right? You know exactly what type of fight Ode is going to have every single time you're in there. So he's not going to look to feel it out and test things out a little bit.
He may run into something.
He's coming right at you. So look, he's dangerous early. I mean, the man can clip you, so you got to be careful. There's no assumption there, but I'm with you as well. I think Ronaldo does that look to be a real talent.
Daniel Zellhuber minus 250 against Esteban Rivovics plus 205. I like Zellhuber in the fight, but the line seems to me a little bit high. This is the one I would probably stay away from, picking Zellhuber, but I probably wouldn't bet the fight because I don't want to lay 250 here. I think it's a little bit closer than that myself.
I agree with you wholeheartedly in that. I had not seen that line either. That surprises me a little bit. I thought this would be a much tighter lineup. I like Zellhuber as well, but I don't know that I'd lay that kind of money on him.
I was thinking it was an 8-5 fight here, right? And and then when I saw the line, it's like, whoa, and I wanted to avoid that.
Shocking.
The next fight, now we're getting to the last three fights. I think Diego Lopez really, his what he has been doing has been spectacular. And he wasn't spectacular against Dan Ige, except if you consider he took the fight literally like on 2 hours notice. He's in the back warming up for one fighter, and they said, oh, by the way, your fighter is sick. You're going to fight Dan Ige, a totally different fighter. So, maybe we give him a break there. But he is a $1.80 favorite over Brian Ortega, who is plus 150. I like Diego in this. I think Brian is a little inconsistent, right? You see Brian Ortega against Yair Rodriguez in their rematch in Mexico, and boy, he looks great. But he can be all over the map. I think you know what you're going to get if you back Diego Lopez.
It's interesting, man. I'm really intrigued by this one because you're right. You could make some criticism of Diego Lopez and say, the fight against Dan Ige didn't look that great, especially against a guy that was on a massage table walking in, a couple hours. But yeah, I was supposed to fight at featherweight. Then I was supposed to fight at lightweight. Then I got an entirely new opponent. So it's like you got to give the guy a pass. That's one of the craziest situations we've ever seen. Meanwhile, Brian Ortega, interesting, right? Because he got ill. He had a bad weight cut. He had to move weight classes. Now he's back a couple months later. Did he fully recover? How does his body react on fight week? Ortega has definitely been in against the tougher competition. Ortega has fought world-class, elite level, the best of the best. So it's interesting. I was looking back at the history of the lines of this fight too, because in the initial meeting, Ortega opened as the favorite but closed as the dog. And then he opens here as an even bigger dog, even though all that happened in between was Diego Lopez being Danny. So I'm intrigued by this one. I don't think you can count Brian Ortega out of this one by any stretch, but what Diego Lopez has done so far in his UFC career has been incredible. But this is by far the highest level competition that he's faced to date. So this, to me, not that I'm saying we don't know if Lopez is real. He's real. But if he wins this and he wins it impressively, now we're talking about, the ceiling is way up here. This guy's the real deal. But I'm not. I wouldn't load up. I'm not betting a mortgage payment on against T City. You know what I'm saying? Like T City can come and do some crazy things and get out of some dangerous places. So this fight will be phenomenal. You know how excited we were the first time it was put together. Now it's even bigger.
I think that when we talk about levels to the fights, you have the prelims where they're guys coming off the Contender Series, coming off the Ultimate Fighter, the fighters that have just been signed in. Those kind of fighters are getting ingratiated into the roster. Then you kind of go up into that, that next level where we're talking, Zellhuber and Ribovics and those kind of fights where, now guys, they've won at that level. Now can they put a winning streak together and can they, they're maybe just outside the top 15 or, 15 to 12 in that range. And then when you get to that top level, and that's where Lopez is, now you're starting to fight the contenders and the guys at championship quality type fighters. And that's where we will find out how good Diego really is.
That's it. That's why I love about this, right? Because you could even say, well, he fought Dan Ige, so didn't he kind of already show that he's in that top level? Yeah, but he fought Dan Ige off a massage table. You know what I mean? Like, hold on. So it's so weird. The guys that he beat early on, he tore through. I have a lot of respect for them, man. They're great fighters, but they haven't proven that championship caliber yet. Ortega has proven that championship caliber. So this is the test. This is a great fight.
And that may go back to what we talked about at the Open about the Mexican star. This kid could be it because he sure has an exciting fighting style.
Yeah, he sure does. Absolutely.
And he also has a big challenge in front of him because after he fights, he's got to go in the back, and he's got to get changed, and he's got to make the walkout because he is walking and going to be in the corner of Alexa Grasso, the flyweight champion, who will defend her title in a trilogy bout against Valentina Shevchenko. Grasso, the champion at DraftKings, is minus $1.30. Valentina is plus $1.10. And that line changed what I think is fairly significantly, it was $1.20 Grasso yesterday. Valentina was plus $1.02 yesterday. So now she is bumped up to $1.10 in Grasso from 120 to 130. So a little money on Alexa Grasso. I'll tell you what, I kind of like Valentina in this one. No knock on Alexa Grasso, but I look at these three fights and I said, well, I think the first fight, Valentina was winning the fight the whole way. Then the second fight, I thought she won the fight. I scored the fight for her. And now I think this time, I think she gets it done this time. So I'll take Valentina Shevchenko every day of the week as a dog. What about you?
I'm so torn on this. Well, first of all, you're right. If I can get Valentina Shevchenko as an underdog, don't even tell me who's on the other side of the cage. Like, I can get an all-time great at plus money, I'm in. But it's a really interesting way to look at it, right? Because if you look at the total rounds between them, we've seen almost 9 total rounds. Valentina Shevchenko has won more of the rounds along the way, right? But she got submitted in one, and a judge scorecard that was 10-8. Had it been 10-9, she takes the win there. Instead, she has to settle for a draw. So I can't decide which way to look at this. Am I saying that, look, Valentina Shevchenko, first of all, just the way their styles match up, they're fun. They're great. They're high level. It's going to be an intriguing fight. But has Valentina Shevchenko, knowing that she won the majority of the rounds between them but hasn't got the positive result, is this the time that she's basically due? That, like, Grasso has, I don't want to say gotten lucky or dodged a bullet or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But now Shevchenko's doing, or do you look at it as
the submission that she got?
I know, and that's what I was gonna say. Or do you look at it as, look, even though Grasso knows I may not be able to beat her every minute of every round, I'm gonna find a way to win one way or another. So I'm torn on this, but I kind of like what you said, and I'm kind of leaning that way. And it's crazy to me that I'm saying this because I'm leaning the same way you are. I feel like Shevchenko is the pick to make here, especially at plus money. She's an all-time great, one of the best females to ever do it. Were it not for one judge's scorecard. And you don't even need that judge's scorecard to go the other way. You don't need to flip it. You just need it to be a 10-9 instead of a 10-8. Then she's walking in with the belt on Saturday night. So I feel like she's the pick to make. And yet I feel like Alexa Grasso could absolutely make us look stupid and be like, guys, 2 times already, she didn't beat me. What made me think she was going to beat you then? So I think Shevchenko's the pick, but this should be another fantastic fight.
And then the main event, to me, is going to be really an intriguing fight. I like Sean O'Malley in the main event, but let's get the lines first. O'Malley is minus 130 favorite. That actually bumped up. Yesterday, DraftKings had it 118 for O'Malley, and Merab minus 102. Now O'Malley is minus $130. Merab plus $110. The over-under in this one is 4.5 rounds. And to me, I like the under because I'm picking O'Malley. Over is minus 154. So over 4.5 rounds, minus 154. Under 4.5 rounds, plus $1.20. A couple other lines I want to throw out there. O'Malley by knockout is plus 190. Now listen to these are interesting. Merab by knockout plus 750. I don't think we're going to see Merab knockout Sean. I doubt that. Merab by submission plus 1,400, and then Merab by decision plus 130. So, John, I'm going to ask my question this way. Those lines on Merab tell me that they expect cardio to be the factor here. Merab's going to be the machine and just going after him and mauling O'Malley in the fight, right? That's Merab's way to win this fight, just to kind of go, keep a high pace and maul O'Malley. Do you see him being able to do that, or do you think O'Malley's striking is going to be too sharp for Merab?
I love this fight so much because we know how these two fight. There's a lot of tape on them. They don't try to hide it. We know what they're trying to do. Merab, I believe, is something special. I believe his cardio is insane. There are just not people on earth that can do what he does, like where you can go 100%. The man does not need to pace himself. Like, if you haven't seen a Merab fight, you're going to watch the first 5 minutes and go, bro, slow down. What are you doing? We still got 4 more rounds, but he can do that for 4 more rounds. So I do like Merab's chances in this fight. I really do. And I think the line reflects that. I think his grappling ability, but more than that, just the fact that he can push forward 100% at all times means that he can make this a dirty, ugly fight, and he can potentially win the fight. But Sean O'Malley's so good, man. His speed, his timing, the length, everything he brings to the table, he absolutely has the ability to win this fight, to catch something in exchange. And, oh, by the way, not that bad on the ground. It's not as if he's on his back. Like, he has no skills there whatsoever. He is really, really good. So
he's a brown belt.
I'm telling you, man, I like Merab slightly in this fight. I do think his aggression, I do think his pace, I do think everything that he does is something special that simply cannot be replicated. But that said, Sean O'Malley is a special fighter, man. And him and Tim Welch, I know they've got a game plan cooked up. I know that they watch everything. They study everything. They understand every wrinkle, every layer. They're ready. It's not like they're going in there cocky, just saying, hey, man, we'll just throw a shot and land it. All the training tapes that he puts on social media are hilarious. They're not real. You know what I mean? He's taking this thing serious. Sean O'Malley's special. If he does win this thing, I do believe, especially in spectacular fashion, it catapults, I should say, his superstar status even higher. But I'm going to lean ever so slightly towards Merab Dvalishvili. I just think he's a very, very tough matchup.
I just want to throw this out there. You mentioned all the skills that O'Malley has, but you didn't say the one thing that I think is his greatest skill, which is his footwork, right? I mean,
oh, yes.
Like, Floyd Mayweather was separated from all the other boxers because he had such great footwork. And Sean is able to get himself in position, and then he's so accurate, as you said before. He is clearly that sharpshooter. And when I watched, and you were sitting next to me when they showed in the arena at Apex on Saturday, the highlights of Merab fighting Henry Cejudo. And what did we see in that fight? Several times, boom, big shots from Henry Cejudo landing on Merab's chin. Henry was a gold medal wrestler. He is one of the great fighters in the history of the sport, but he is nowhere near Sean O'Malley's level of striking. And if Henry Cejudo is landing that clean, and not just one time, multiple times on Merab like that, I think it's hard to say Sugar Sean is not going to be able to find that chin. And if Sugar Sean finds that chin, I think it's a different story.
That's the part that definitely does scare me. If you're on the Dvalishvili side, we've seen him take some shots over the years. You know what I mean? He's been touched on that chin a little bit. And you're right. I think Sean touches people on the chin a little bit differently than everybody else, man. The power, the precision, the accuracy, everything that he has. So it's not an easy assignment. I'm certainly not saying, hey, go get your Merab t-shirt right now, champion, get your tattoo done right now, champion 2024, Sphere, UFC 306. No, it is a tough assignment. I think Merab is something special when it comes to the tools that he has, but Sean O'Malley has everything to combat those tools. That's why I love it. I feel like most fights going into it, I can look at a fight and I can be like, well, listen, of course, fighter A has this path and this path, but I really think fighter B is probably the fighter that's going to take this tonight. This one right here, it's like the way I keep looking at it is when this thing is over, we're gonna all look back and be like, well, of course, that's the way it was supposed to go. I mean, you know what tools they have. You know when it ends, how it's gonna end. You know what I mean? You just don't know which way it's gonna go. At least I don't. That's what I love about it, man. I know it's either a Sean O'Malley knockout or a Merab Dvalishvili decision where he just outworks him for 25 minutes. I just don't know which one it is.
John, I have two picks on this card that I think, man, I am sure of these picks. That is Raul Rosas in the opener,
right?
And Sean O'Malley in the finisher, right? The 8 in between, I'm not so sure. But I God bless you, Merab. I love, and Merab, what a wonderful person he is, right? A lot of fun and, just a great guy. And you got to admire everything that he's done, not only in his fight career, but in his life, become an American citizen and all that he has done. I just don't know that his style matches up correctly for if he had more in the way of submissions, like where he could threaten O'Malley, right? Then I would say, okay, that's a different story. So maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I see it. But anyways, John Morgan, MMA legend, is the man. You hear the first question every week, unless he's not there, then it's me. But how did that happen? By the way, I used to always be the first question. Then all of a sudden, I would be looking for the mic, and I hear John Morgan talking and asking the first question. What happened?
You did too much boxing, man. You drifted off for a little bit, bro. You went on and did too much boxing. You let me slide in over there, man. I just weaseled my way in there while you were covering those big boxing matches. But you know what's funny? So everything you said on there is spot on. It's so true. I was thinking to myself, man, Merab definitely hasn't fought strikers the level of Sean O'Malley. And then you go back, but before the Cejudo fight, who did he beat? Peter Yan, Jose Aldo, Marlon Moraes. I mean, he's beating some pretty decent strikers. So I don't know, man. I love it, man. I cannot wait for this fight. I mean, again, I can't wait for the event as a whole. I know we talked about that. You and I have both been in that venue. I'm telling you, if anybody's got their doubts, I believe this is going to be an incredibly special night. But we've got actual incredible fights on top of it. So I am looking forward to Saturday night.
As always, John Morgan, appreciate you, brother. Where can people find you on social media?
John Morgan _MMA on Twitter. Still Twitter to me. John Morgan MMA on Instagram. And hey, man, watch on UFC Fight Pass. We got a couple CFF. My September's loaded, man. I got the Sphere. Then I'll be down in Florida next Saturday night for CFFC, and then up in North Dakota the Friday after that for CFFC. So we got some calls on UFC Fight Pass coming up soon. Of course, check out Grind City Media as well, where you can check out the Cage Side with John Morgan every week.
The man is everywhere. It's amazing. I don't know where he gets the energy. John, appreciate you, brother. See you soon.
See you soon, brother.